So, we've just done a video about your story in terms of your cardiac history and your recent dealings with your mother and her cardiac illness, and how we've helped you and her get back to better function through a baseline setting process and a graded progression and a controlled progression. But we're aware that that video is 16 minutes.
It's quite long.
It's quite a long time. So we thought we'd just do a bit of a succinct, a more succinct video on just that baseline setting process. So, in less words than you did last time.
That's tricky for me. I have so many words to give.
And so little time
And so
in the day.
little time.
Yeah.
So many people who want to hear it. See? Still going already.
So in terms of baseline setting, let's bring this back on track. That process, for me, I think when I'm treating people with musculoskeletal injuries, I tend to ask them to pick an exercise and do it to a point of pain, or the onset of pain. Do that 3 times, average the times, and then knock about 20% off, so they're always working in a pain-free state. Okay. It's more tricky with cardiac rehab though, isn't it? Because you don't want them to get to a point where they've overdone it and are feeling lousy.
No, because you'll only notice it when it's way too far, you'll get to fatigue. So I think baseline setting, cardiac-wise, some of it depends on what your consultant's told you to do. Your cardiac, if you're having cardiac issues, you will have seen cardiac specialists, cardiologists, cardiac nurse team, cardiac rehab physios. Someone will have already given you a clue. You've just really got to listen to what they've said to you. So it might be, they might have just said you need to not do a lot. You need to quantify what not a lot it is.
That's the hard thing though. Everyone
really
says don't do too much.
Don't do, so what is too much? So that's why I think it's better that you take the bull by the horns and you go, right, let's start. Functionally, your heart is designed to work, your body's designed to work. So let's pick a very simple level of, say, 1,500, 2,000 steps a day. If you've been unwell, in hospital, had tests, or you've had cardiac surgery, a simple amount of steps a day, okay? And from that, and it might be that that's too easy.
I think the key thing is what gets measured gets managed, to use a cliche. So just starting to measure what you're doing is a key thing. So
start with something.
I don't always think that measuring heart rate with a heart rate monitor is always the most beneficial, because that can make you more anxious and you can almost fixate on that. And
if you've got a pacemaker, it's a bit relevant.
But there's that. But also if there's a hard limit you can't go past, and your cardiac rehab nurses or team will advise you on that, then you can by all means have a heart rate monitor watch and set an upper limit which you can't go past. That's a great idea. But measuring your daily activity levels using a step counter of some kind, doesn't have to be a posh Fitbit. It can just be a step counter on your
so all
phone.
phones. I mean, we went on the Which Guide, didn't we? There's Fitbits, there's Activity Manager, that I talk about Fitbit, that it was 20 quid, wasn't it? Doesn't do the heart rate, does a fab job. I mean,
there's one on your phone.
Yeah, there is.
Cheap pedometers for probably under a £5 on Amazon.
Yeah, and to be honest, it doesn't have to be exact. It's just measuring you as a standard. It's getting a baseline. There's so much debate of does it actually measure exactly your steps? It'll measure the same thing day on day out.
And if you use it on a daily basis, it's a good indication from a day, because you're not changing it every time, so it'll have good validity when compared to itself.
Yeah.
Now, if you're wondering how many steps you should do, well, just measure the first week or so with your Fitbit and see how much you're doing, and also perhaps think about, well, how did you feel after your day's activity? So if you're normally doing, say, 1,000 steps and you're feeling fine, you'll have some days where you've done 1,000 steps, say. You'll have other days where you may have done 2,000 steps, but you felt lousy afterwards, so we know that that's too much. But if you're monitoring over a week's period, you can sort of make a note of how you felt at the end of the day. and also how many steps you've done. And you can sort of get a guide of where your baseline is then. So we want your baseline to be a point of comfort. So if 2,000 steps is too much, well, let's go on the err on the side of caution and not do more than, 1,000 is comfortable. Stick to 1,000 to begin with. Have a week on 1,000, and then try and increase it to 1,500.
But I think the thing is the increasing it. If you look at loading tissues, if we go back to the musculoskeletal, which is our area, if you're loading tissues, you talk about increasing it 10% a week. So the hard bit is the returning to fitness. People go, well, I did 1,000, right? Okay, I felt fine. I'm going for 3. And that's where it falls apart. It's a proper tortoise approach, okay? If you're talking about 10% a week, which is probably very slow to manage, you're talking week 1 you do 1,000 steps per day, week 2 you do 1,100 steps per day.
Yeah, and that might not be too realistic for some people.
It might not.
But I think as long as you're...
But as long as you're aware of it...
But if you increase it, say, to 1,500, you've increased it by about 50%.
Yeah, you have.
Which is quite a sizable amount. If you then feel lousy, then it might be that you've got to go down to 10... to a 10% increase.
Yeah.
I mean, we've used 1,000 steps a day as just a figure plucked out of the air. We're not saying that's the place you've got to start. What we're saying is it's got to be a place which is comfortable for you, and if you try and progress and you get symptoms of excessive fatigue or feeling unwell, then you're going to have to go back to the previous level where you were comfortable, and then maybe for a couple of days, and then progress it in a smaller amount. It might be that you've got to stagnate at a level of a couple of 1,000 steps for more than 1 week. If you can't, but you can't just go on pushing regardless. Would you agree with that?
No, I'd agree with that. Yeah. So that's our quick roundup of baseline setting. That was the quick version.
Not the 16-minute version we did earlier.
Yeah, I don't think that one's very quick.
But we promise we'll try and do a few more of these videos talking about with Ness's journey and her mum's journey, but also for things we found helpful in rehabilitating people following cardiac problems and also family members as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope you found it useful. Any questions, please get in touch, or anything you'd like us to cover, please drop us a line. And until next time, thank you.